Nope. I will go ahead and request remote for if or when I need.
Okay, now one of the interesting things that happened, I went back to the job that we did on Wilcoxon, and I was trying to copy one of these arrows to my
Yeah.
current file
Okay.
so that I could use it for my merger thing.
Mhm.
And I did it, and I couldn't get it to come in. And then I looked,
Yeah,
and
way out
lo
there.
and behold, there it is.
Right. And that is because, let's see, this is actually a block. You see, if I select it and I look at my properties, and
Yeah,
that block called merger arrow. So you technically need um, to copy that from one to the other. I'll show you what we can do with it. Let's just edit. I'm going to erase outside. Okay, so now it's a block. So when you're ready to do it, now you would be in here when you do it, or inside. You want to be inside the frame because you want that to, like, if you should happen to reposition the viewport, you want the arrow to always be, tied down to wherever it is on the ground as it points to different properties. So once you're there, we're going to insert that block. So if you go to the draw menu and all the way at the bottom where it says, or three up from the bottom, it says insert. Okay. Now, if the block is already defined in the drawing, you can pull it down from this list right here, and it's probably in there. But
merger arrow. There it was.
but don't count on that. So in case it's missing, always take it, go back and find it from the file. Now go and browse wherever. I think we put it like where you put your north arrow and stuff. Yeah, so it's probably up to your CAD resources. I see. And there's the merger arrow. Okay. And then go ahead and say open. And now when it comes in, you see we're giving it some behavior with this box. We're going to, first of all, the insertion point, that's where it's going to be inserted. We're going to specify on the screen.
Okay.
The scale right now is set to come in at only 10% of its defined size. I don't know what size it is. But we're not going to specify it on the screen. So if we check that we do want to specify that on the screen, we can sort of, no matter what scale our drawing's at, we can make it appropriate for doing it. And yeah, I'd leave that one set because you don't want it to be stretched north, south, or east, west. And then the rotation, you're going to also want to specify on the screen. So so after you hit the insert button, it's going to prompt you to pick a point and set a scale and then set a rotation. So go ahead and do that and watch the prompts at the command line. And say, yes, you want to redefine it. If it's not in there, you won't get that. So now wherever you want it to where that point is going to go is where you want to pick. And now you can zoom in if you want to get closer and all that kind of stuff. There you go. So now obviously it's going to be too big, but just keep in mind where you place that now. Now it wants to know a scale factor. Now you can see, at at size 1, you saw what size it was, so you can either make it. Now you can zoom in even closer so that your mouse won't have zoom in, not out. There you go. Keep zoom. Now make mouse movements closer in toward where you picked. See the closer you get back to where the point was that you picked, the smaller it's going to get, and the further out you go, the bigger it's going to get. Or you can just look at that and say, okay, that's good, and you can just click right there whenever you're happy with it. So click, and now as you move the mouse around up and down on the screen, just move it, but just move the mouse. You're setting the rotation. Okay. Now, obviously, once you position it, so go ahead and click it once you're happy with it. Now, once you've positioned that, you can, it's just like anything else. You can select it, move it, rotate it, scale it even further. Maybe it's just a little too big and you want it to be only half that size. So you've got it selected. And then you can go to the properties and where it says,
Oops, disappeared.
do an undo. Okay, now select it. And over in the properties, you see there's that scale number, the scale X, and Y and Z are grayed out because we said a uniform scale. So that was half, basically half size. You could make that, you could select it if you wanted to say half of that, you would make it something like 0.3.
This one?
Yep. See, and then
that's a little bit too small.
All right, then make it 0.4 or whatever you'd like, however you want it to be, and you can change that at will anytime you want. Okay.
And then I can move that.
You can also move it just like a piece of text. You can rotate it. You can even move it just by even quicker. Go ahead and select it. And you see that blue grip? Just grab the grip and reposition it and click where you want the new place. There you go. That's the very same thing that you just did. All right. And then you can also rotate that just like rotating a line or a piece of text or anything.
Okay.
All right. So that's the way to use that merger arrow. And I would always take it from the file and redefine it, unless it happens to be in your particular drawing. You can do that from that pull down list. Either way is fine.
Okay.
All right.
As a style thing, I put these labels in this morning, and I realized I should probably be going in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So, I mean, do you agree with that? It's like
yeah, let me zoom into it. Let me see how they read. Yes, they're reading up, but they're awkward. They're a little past noon on the clock.
Right.
So I would put them in the other direction. So I would just simply select. You can do this together at one time. Just select them both. Just select.
It's not selecting. Let me.
Are they in paper space?
Yes.
Yeah. You might want those to be in model space because again, it's gonna, if your viewport should shift and those boundaries should go away, then these labels are going to stay relative to the page, not relative to the geometry. So if you want that in model space and you haven't, and you've already done it and you got it like where you like it, there's a simple command that allows you to move something from model space to paper space or from paper space to model space.
Change space.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, so how would you rotate both of those things?
Well, I'll show you, but let's go ahead and put them into model space first of all. And then it works either way. It should be CHSP, not ANG, but there you go, CHSP. There it is. And now select the target viewport active and press enter to continue. So you're going to just click in the viewport and hit enter. Okay, so now it says objects were scaled by a factor of 100 to maintain their appearance. And that's exactly what we'd expect. Okay, so now you're there, you're back at the command line. Now to change the rotation, there's a couple of things you can do. If you select one of those pieces of text, let's see where the insertion point is. All right, so that is defined, that's justified as left justified, and it's about that center, it's about that point there. Okay. If that were center justified instead of left justified, you'd see that grip in the middle, and that would have made it a little easier to have spun it around. So we're going to have to reposition it. But If we want to simply make that go the opposite direction, and you can go ahead and select both of these and then look in their properties, and you see that you scroll and down. Okay, no. All right, go ahead and just press escape and then just select one. So there's two things you can do here. You can select one, and you see the rotation north 7 west 30 or north 704 35 west.
Yeah.
You can just change the N to be S and the W to be E. And hit enter. And see it, what it did, it kept the insertion place the same place, but now just grab the grip and reposition it, just move it up where it goes. And be careful not to snap to there you go. Yep. Okay. Now to do it the other way, go ahead and you can either select, yeah, go ahead and select. And now let's just do a rotate. And now it wants to know a rotation point. So you can click, you know, anywhere you want. It doesn't have to be about the grip. So I would click, yeah, just sort of right in, well, no, not, see, yeah, see, it got that end point, press escape. Select the text again and rotate it and make sure you're not snapping. All right, so it's asking you for a point. So get, yeah, right in there. Now see how that end point pops up? So yes, there you go, perfect. Now just sort of point to the center of the text and just type 180 down at the command line. Because you're going to rotate it by that amount. Hit enter, and there you go. Now you might need to adjust where it lies a little bit relative to the line or something, but that looked to be pretty much flipping it around.
Okay.
Okay. So either of those two ways works.
I'm drawing some adjoiner lines.
Uh-huh.
And let me show you what's happening here. Okay, I'm picking a point 226. Just coming out that way a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going from point 228.
Okay.
Coming out that way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going from point 24. Coming out that way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to wait for a minute for it to happen. What happens is that all of a sudden this line is going from here to there, and this line is going from there to there, and this line is going from here down to here. Let's see if it repeats that. I don't know if it will or not. Now, let me ask you another question about
you know, it's not going to happen this time. It's like going to the doctor with a trick knee.
right. Yeah, it may not happen. This is a joiner text.
Okay.
And let's see, it's in paper space.
Yeah, it's paper space.
So is that the layer it should be on?
There's no rule for it, but that would make sense. Looks like it's intended, the layer name's intended to be a joiner text. That way you can turn that on and off at will without affecting the
and what layer? This is also on joiner text, but obviously
yeah,
very different.
Yeah, and that I would put maybe on a different layer name. I might, make a new layer called owner text or something like that, and then put those on that layer.
Okay, and what are all of these things for?
Those are, you see that 18T or 18 STJ.
Yes,
Those are
yes.
all of those things that we brought in when we brought the GIS in. They brought those in on those layers, and they came in, and now they're empty layers. So what we're going to do is we'll go back and we'll purge all this stuff in just a second, and we'll get rid of it.
I'm going to call this text subject.
Okay.
Okay, then what defaults do I need to set here?
Since it is text, it's going to, I would, leave the color as white, so it would, you don't have to mess around with that any, but the line weight, any of that, none of that's going to apply as long as you're using true type fonts, which your standard text is the way it's written now.
Okay.
Fine. So I would just go ahead and close that off. The only time you need to worry about line weights and stuff like that is if you're using one of those, the old CAD fonts, because that's like it's a line style. So now let's go back and select those pieces of text and put them on that new layer.
Oh, okay.
You can just type the letter T and it'll go to the first there. Of course, there it is, but you get it. When you're on that list like that, if you type the first letter of the layer name, it'll jump. You don't have to scroll down to Safari. But
Okay.
anyway, you get the idea. All right, so now there's a couple of
Let me
ways.
look back there and see if this is moved yet.
Okay.
No, it's not moving now.
Could have been somehow or another, you either had another point number that defaulted, that came up by default down there, or maybe it accidentally snapped to something. I don't know.
Okay, now using the GIS for my location map, I've done this a million times, but for some reason today I'm struggling.
Okay.
So what I have done in the past is gone to the GIS tools
Mm-hmm.
and
You brought in that.
now I go to images, or is it tools? Is that what I'm doing wrong? I'm going to
Well,
images.
it depends. It could be either one. If we,
Well, I'm looking for that USGS.
yeah. So, but now, right now, where you are, you're in the survey menus, and the survey has a GIS tools menu, but it's not the same. So if you go to the full GIS module, there you go. Now you got GIS data and GIS tools. So it's the data where you import the GIS data, or you import the Esri ArcGIS services or the web
Oh,
feed.
it's the ArcGIS services. I think that's it.
So keep coming down, like right there. And so there's going to be that. All right, now that shows you what layer it goes on. Now cancel that for a minute though, because there is, if you look at this information right here, I think this is already in here. Now that's a polyline. Let me see, was there anything else?
There is an image there somewhere.
Yes, there is an image, and it's possibly either frozen or it's just not shown.
Oh, I think I froze it. Let me look here real quick.
All right. And that was on a layer called image frame.
Let me just type it in here.
Just type IM and then now put another asterisk so it fills in for anything else after IM. There you go. Now you see there's
none of them are frozen.
Okay, so there's geo image, there's image frame, and everything's thought. Okay, so now so that we'll close that off. So now select do a
crop. Oh, wait a minute. I'll bet I know where it is. Let me look here real quick.
Now that's the other file that's open. There you go. It's that, and it's loaded. It looks like everything's loaded, so nothing is unloaded. And those are that's some other imagery. Now I'll show you what's going on with it. I'll go ahead and close that off. And you've got the image in here. So if you click on that, And wait a minute, it's not, we're not getting your selection cycling. Let me see. What is, oops. There we go now. Where is our selection? Cycling, I don't. I don't even see it offered. Selection cycling. Well, it's not showing up there. Let me see something. Selection cycling. This is 2. Now if I select, oh gosh. All right, selection cycling. The aids are both visual aids and the list are enabled. Okay. Hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about? This selection cycling. You see, you get that double
Yes.
thing and you pick that. That's what I want. So it is working, but why isn't it working here? Because that says it's a it's a polyline on image frame. If I select that and I see, okay, there's not anything there. There was something that was there. The layers are still there. It's just not there anymore. Somehow or another, it's gotten removed. Now, there is what I had suspected had happened. I see your line has done this.
Yeah. And see, the other one has too.
Yeah. All right, that was what, 226. Now it goes off to 227. That is 227. Wow. What's going on? Here's 226. 226. All right, that is 335, 444. 335, 444. All right, so that's not that. Huh. Well, Mr. Mikey. I couldn't tell you what's causing that. Let me see. if we did, you did this 2D polyline. These current properties, and then you did it by point number. Now I'm gonna do this by,
Well, I did it both ways. First, I did it by picking a point on the line, and it did the same thing. So then I thought, well, I'll try picking the point number.
all right, so I'm gonna go do
I've done
that.
it both ways.
Yeah, let me see if I do that endpoint and do parallel snap. That one. Those two are behaving, looks like.
Yeah, all of them are behaving except for those three.
So that one's still good. It was just that one, this one, and this one up here. All right. So if we do this again, take it from, where is that showing up? See, it says endpoint,
Yeah,
but I didn't see the grip show up. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Not that that would, oops. Keep forgetting how to use this. All right, so we go here from here. We're going to snap parallel. We're going to hover, and then we're going to go this way. Large. All right, and then this one we did. And the only thing I'm doing here is I'm not using the point numbers, which you should be able to. Okay, there should be no problem with that. Ah, see right there.
both of them, all of them.
Yeah, except this one now went back down to there, and this one went up to there. You know, we had this problem once before, recall?
Yeah, and it had to do with multiple coordinates, and that's why we created a whole new template that I start out new every time. I don't do a save as.
Yeah. So there's something about not the points themselves so much as this and this. When it grabs that geometry. Now, these things were drawn back with this setting that said link line work with points. And that's what I think is that line work gets redefined somehow. So let me see if I can figure something out here. Is this, in fact, it is a 2D.
Do we need to thaw out all the layers and do a zoom extents to see if we've got something really screwy in there?
It might not be a bad idea. Let's
that turned out to be.
Yeah, I don't see a thing.
Did you do a zoom extents?
Well, let's see. We've got that. Was this where I was? Yeah, that's down there. So these are probably just some points. Yeah, it looks like a couple straight points. Do a zoom extent. So yeah, that's fine. So I'm gonna I'm gonna undo this back to where we were before, just so I can keep the layers back to the way they were. I don't have to try to guess which ones are frozen here. There we go. So now there's that. And now I'm going to go back and zoom extents again and then erase those straight points. All right. So there's something about this geometry. I'm looking, the elevation is fine. It is just a polyline. Let's step through the vertices. There's the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7, 8. All right, now watch this as I go through it. There's the first vertex.
Yeah,
And you see the X on the screen.
yeah,
That's vertex number 2. There's 3, there's 4, there's 5. Now that's all so far so good. Now where would you expect 6 to be is that lower, the southwest corner, right?
mhm.
But watch where it goes. Ah, crap. Of course it's going to do it now. Well, it worked that time, but I did it before and it got to, just like that. It went from here, I went to next and it jumped up to 7. I must have just accidentally hit it twice. It's all right. So anyway, yeah, thought I might be on something about the geometry. Now that's again just a polyline elevation. This is polyline elevation. Let's make sure. Let's see, I'm going to see if I've only got one thing there. Yep, I've only got one thing there. If I find point by number 228, everything points correctly. Now, if we do this, if I draw a line, a polygon, and if I just go from that endpoint to that endpoint, and then move last, we'll put this one down here in a minute. And if I repeat the command and go from this endpoint up to this endpoint, move that last item. Oops. Move last. We'll put that one up here when we're done. And I want to now repeat the command, and I'll go from this endpoint up to this endpoint. I'll move last. I'll come from here up to here. All right. That is a length of 75-ish. Look it up. So if I make these all 275, 275. All right, so they're now all 75 feet long. And if I just move this from that endpoint to, let's use the insertion points. From that, I'm trying to avoid using that line, but you shouldn't have to do any of this. This is absolute kludge work. This is not, it's not behaving like it should. If I move from there to the insertion point there. So I'm actually finding the insertion point of the symbol, and I'm not really relying on point numbers or the endpoints of that drawn geometry other than making it parallel.
Right.
Now, if I do, yeah, see, when I do a regen, it does this goofy looking stuff again. All right.
How about if I just drew it in paper space?
Yeah, we could do that, but boy, that really bothers me.
You know, we spend a lot of time trying to fix Carlson's glitches.
Yeah. All right, so if we save this, now let's do a standard copy of this and this. And I'm just going to move it over to here. Now, what I'm doing with this is I want to, there's something about these reactors. So if I remove extended entity data from those, and if I so move that to reactors. All right, here it is, reactors. Now, if we and then if you take these you guys and move them from there to there. I could save that. We'll reach in. Yep. All right, so there's something about the reactivity of this line work that is causing that to happen. So to prevent that, we could go ahead and do that on these as well. So that won't happen again. But then if you should move a point, you'll have to go back and make sure you move the endpoints of the lines to them. But I think you're probably settled on where those go now. So if we remove the reactors, of these, And we remove the extended entity data. Let's see if it remembers the previous. Now I think you would be able to do that. Let's see, we're going to go from 226. We'll go from that endpoint. We'll go out to here. And we just do a regen. Yeah, so now it's no longer pulling that. There's something about that, Michael, and that's an error on their part. So we've got it fixed. Just remember, just realize on this particular set of drawn line work, if you happen to go in and if that point number 228 moves slightly or even a whole lot, and if you want this to go with it, it's no longer going to travel because I've removed those reactors. So you'll have to take that grip and move it up to wherever the new point is. Okay, so just keep that part in mind. And I'm going to select all of these and send them to the back just so that they are underneath the point circle wipeouts and that kind of stuff. All right.
Sure.
Okay. So now, well, that's odd. All right. So there they are back where they're supposed to be. All right.
Back to the location inset.
Location inset. Now we wanted to use that.
Okay, what the image that was under there was just the aerial photograph.
Okay. And that did we have that? Excuse me. We had that one. We've got what's in here now. This Jefferson County.
And that should be it.
And it says.
Oh, no, that's probably the topo.
Yeah, well, see this SID?
Yeah.
That is an image, but let's see. It's found here at this location. It says it's loaded, but it's not showing up, so we probably need to reload it. Whether it will do so is another story. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So we reloaded that one. Well, those are some nice home sites, it looks like. But I am up in the air a lot. Maybe they're just cabins. I don't know.
No, they're pretty nice. Well, most of them are pretty nice. There's a lot of trash there too.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. There's no particular road names or anything like that associated with. Now that is the photograph, but that's you're wanting
the USGS or
the USGS. Okay, so now what you can do with that is either back through here with that image that we reloaded, you could right click and unload and it stays attached, but it gets out of your way. Okay. You can also have selected it and over in the properties, there's a property that says visible, yes or no.
Yeah, that's usually how I do it.
Yeah, and that's fine too. All right, so let's put the actual quad sheet in. Let's see if that's what we're going to want or whatever we're going to use.
Yeah, you want me to drive?
Yep.
Okay, that was under GIS data, right?
Correct.
And it was under S3 ArcGIS services or REST services.
It's either that or the one above it could also be as well. The web feature service. That's probably not
the web feature service.
Yeah, okay, then let's look at that. Now that's the NGS. Now, if you pull that down, you can see what all you've got available. There should be one. There's like Street Maps USA. That's you've got world imagery, Antarctic, Arctic, world boundaries, Delorme world base map.
Yeah, we've looked at those before in the NGS topo.
That's the best one. Okay. Yeah, and the world street map sometimes would be good if it's in an area that has a lot of streets because it will identify them. So we're in good shape. Now, let's go ahead and change the resolution up to high, just so in case it's available. They may not say it's available, but we'll do that. We'll draw in the background. We'll put it on image, aerial, or you could, I would just click in that box and just highlight the word aerial.
How about putting it in location instead?
You can do that too. I was going to say. Okay. And then say okay. And now it wants the corners. So you're going to give it the lower left and the upper right of that little white box.
Oh, okay. So I do it here and then I move it.
Well, you don't need to move it. Just, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. All right. So no, you click there and then click up there. There you go. And it wants to know a file name. Now at this point, there's something about this software that for whatever reason, if you go to overwrite something that already exists, it messes it up. So go ahead and click that to get the name. And then up there to the right of where it says location inset.png up above it in the file name field, right in there in that field, go to the left or to the, yeah, and put -2 or something. Yeah, that's fine. And say save. All right, because that's going to be a different place or a different file name. And there's something about, even though it should allow you to overwrite the original, there's something about it that it doesn't behave itself, I've noticed. So you can actually get rid of the one file. If you delete it first, then it should be okay. But then, so now, as soon as it's finishing here, we'll see what happens with it.
I'm thinking that it may not give me enough area for a location instead if I've just picked that square.
Oh, okay. Well, we can repeat it if we need it.
Because we want to put it in the location inset frame at about a scale of 1:2000 feet. And I think I remember that the problem with the high resolution is that well, we'll see.
All right, so there that is, and it doesn't look terribly definitive.
Right.
So that may not be the map to use.
Yeah.
So let's get rid of that. And let's try another one. Let's go back to GIS data. And try your Esri's.
Was it REST services or ARC services?
Yeah, the REST service, look at the REST service. And now up there where it says service URL, that's a pull down.
Okay, that's the one I use for the floodplain.
Flooding, yeah. And there's all kinds of other things that are possibly available. And depending on which service that you define, you can get things like, voting records and zip code boundaries and all that. So,
right.
All right. So now if you go back to the Esri, yeah. And now instead of the NGS topo, let's look at the world street map. It's a few underneath where you were, down at the bottom. Right, one right up right there. Okay, and now choose OK, and let's back out and give it a little more reference. There you go. So yeah. You might even go across the river. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go that tall. I would go that wide, but yeah, that looks probably pretty good. And let's give it one and call it 3 this time. So click there and change that to a 3. All right, so let's say okay to that and try it again. We'll just repeat. Wait, it's going to ask you for another box. Well, no, go ahead and escape the command and let's run it again. And this time we'll leave it down to medium resolution. There we go. Yeah, I'll give it that, generally that same size. Yeah, not so tall, but a little wider. You want to keep it sort of square looking. All right.
Didn't keep 3.
Yeah, I never got to save it, so. Well, that's encouraging. At least we know there's data there to be had. Otherwise, I think we were zoomed out too far and it had data, but it said it was too much to handle. Wow, that doesn't,
See, that's what I was afraid of. Route 9, which is what we need to get to, is way up to the north.
all right, but we do have this identified. That's encouraging. Okay. All right, so
I don't know if we need to get all the way to, I guess we should.
I'll tell you what, you know where you are in here where you can pick up some major roads. Go
Well,
ahead.
let me look through real quick at the tax map.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so sort of get a sense of where it is we're going to go. You know, maybe we go further.
Okay, here's where we are down here. And to
Okay,
see to get to Route 9, you've got to go way up here,
up
which is how you
there.
get to the property. Or I
Okay,
guess we could go, maybe it makes more sense to do something like that.
yeah, as long as there's some, like, I see um, your major intersection over here at Campbelltown and, or whatever that was, and Mount,
Yeah, but you can't get to the site from there. The only way you can get to
ah,
the site is
okay.
on John Rissler Road, which is from Route 115 down this way.
So this one is, yeah, Charlestown. Yeah, so I would say we want to get at least up to Charlestown as well. And we're
Okay, so that's where the curve in the river is.
yeah, and then, and I would keep it sort of squarish. We're going to be here. I would keep, I would maybe come down to like to this level. There's no need to go down into here, but if you come up like this, uh, and across, you know, so they can identify the shape of some of those properties. Anyway, you get this sense and just gauge from the shape of the river where you're going to need to do it. So
Okay, let me minimize this.
okay.
Okay, so that was the bend in the river down here. So I want to go from about there to about there. Is that right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So back to GIS data.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that your location inset map is going to be square, so you want to keep your shape sort of square, so you might have some extra stuff on the left and right. And we'll always clip it, so. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe a little, yeah, that's fine. So let's give it a 4 this time, and you can go back once you're done and just clean out all those other ones. All right, so zoom in around that bend in the river and let's see if it got the major route that
No, it didn't.
let's see here. What was this?
But you know what? That's probably enough.
All right.
Let's just use that and then make them ask me for more if they.
Okay. That should work fine. I don't know what those little, what's that?
I don't know.
Oh, it's gone away, man. Might have just been a glitch. This frame will probably want, is that's, I don't know, we'll probably want to freeze that layer or something. We'll take a look. All right, so now what did I have you do on this before? Select that and then move it off to the side somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to want to make a copy.
Actually, you know what? You used to have me do a save as. Remove all of the points.
The points and such, and just
Do a save as for the DWG and call it a location inset.
okay.
And then remove all of the points from it.
Yep. That would
and then bring this into that drawing.
okay.
So
Now,
should we go ahead and do that? I'm starting to remember now.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and that would work certainly fine. And the problem is there's so many different ways of doing this.
Maybe I should just do a save as now and then come back and delete
correct.
this.
Let's do that.
And I'll call it location inset drawing.
Yeah. And you're in your Bell folder, so you're fine. And now you're going to be in that drawing now, so that's where you want to be. In fact, yeah, so now you want to erase all your points out of the drawing.
And just use the window.
No, right there, it wants to know how you want to select them. So you want to select them by number. So and now it wants to know the numbers to erase. Just type the word all and hit enter. Now you do not want to take them from the coordinate file, of course. So say no for that. Delete the point symbols. Yeah, you might as well. Okay, so now they're done. And what I would do on this one too is because we're really only going to be using this for the image and the property lines. So zoom in there and you see that merger arrow. I'd get rid of that. You could just hit delete. And then for the contour lines, let's do an erase by layer. And
where does that come in? Edit?
Yeah, it's under edit and erase, but it's also on the layers toolbar, where you have the little pick by, freeze by pick. You see the one that's two more to the right. It looks like a pencil eraser over a stack of layers. There you go. Click. And then where it says select layers from screen, you want to pick one of the, go ahead. Yeah, now pick one of the index, one of the intermediates, one of the tags. Well, the intermediates will go with the text, or the text will go with the index. So click one of those, one of the intermediate contours, and then that one depression contour up there around the hole. It's not that one, the white one that's just to the inside. You barely see it. There it is.
And enter.
Did you click it? It didn't look much. Okay, yeah, then enter. And that's CTR depressed, CTR index, and CTR perfect. Say okay. All right, so they're gone. Now let's thaw everything in the drawing because we may have some things on a frozen layer we want to get rid of. So let's go up to, there's a quicker way than that. If you look at that same layers toolbar where you do the pick freeze, there's that one right there. Okay. So that's going to come on. Now you've got some extra things we don't need, like we don't need you don't need the floodplain boundary lines. You don't need those little green buildings or whatever they are necessarily. I mean, you can decide what you do and don't need. See, there's the break lines and the boundary for the survey stuff. So
Yeah,
you just, you could just, since those are, individual lines, you can do something like that. We don't need these. Let's see, what else do we have? We can also go back and erase these. Clear that. I don't need those anymore. I'll just grab these joiner lines. I'll leave that box around there for the moment. I think we're okay. Now let me just turn this off for just a quick second. Make sure we've got everything.
you want to get that other square off, that other frame.
Not quite at the moment, because that's going to be I think now that image is now turned off. I'm going to use that because I think that is the same proportions as the one in the location inset. So I'm going to use it to offset through. So now let's see, my location inset for, first of all, I don't need any of these or this. I'm going to detach all of those. This I will reload. There we go. Now, if I take this and see again, and I'm just doing this from memory. I think we've done this because that's where that location inset was, but we're obviously at a different scale. So I want to keep that because it's proportioned correctly, but I want to offset it to where it goes out.
I just picked that as I created a draw a rectangle command to bring in the photograph.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's all that is. That has nothing to do with the location inset.
Okay. I thought maybe we had taken it from the other. So, all right. So I'm going to take that, get rid of that. I'm going to also come over here and these two, I don't need any of this necessarily. So I'll delete. I'll delete this. And this one, I could also delete, but here's, oh, we go back to that first one. If I delete this one, it's going to say use, it'll be deleted. The model layout can't be deleted. So you're going to be left with model and layout one, which is just generic. Okay, so we've got that. Now, what I'm doing, Michael, is I'm getting rid of a lot of extraneous data that we have. So we could also do a purge on this. And you do that one of two places. You can go to the file menu and choose drawing utilities and purge. And that's probably the most industrial strength. You could also do a drawing cleanup and it does some other things, but let's just do a standard CAD purge and it's all the way at the bottom there. Okay. Now we want to check that we want to purge nested items. There you go. And we'll automatically purge any orphaned data, but we do not want to confirm each item to be purged because this is going to get rid of all of those 18 SJ layers and all that stuff. So go ahead and say purge all and then close. And let's go ahead and save this. This is now a nice and lean and clean. So if you look at your layer list now, You should see only the few. You got the 3D break line. Adjoiner was your current layer, so it didn't get rid of it. Your boundary location inset and plat ASI. All right, so that's all that you have layer wise. So that's great, you know, and it did the same thing for line styles, etc. Now, let's zoom into where we are around the properties, and let's select those lines that we want to show in our location map on our other drawing. So if you zoom in, get up there, and now those boundary lines are on layer boundary and all that, and they're on a layer, or they have a line style, and it's going to try to pattern that line style, but we don't need that for the location map. We really only need need them to be sort of so we got one more little stray line here that we can get that. So you see, we don't need that pattern. We could just make them all continuous.
Yeah.
So we'll select them all and we'll change the line style, or line type rather, to continuous, except all. Actually. And then we'll put that to 1. That's all fine, well and good. All right, so that's it. Now, is our what do you want to show in the location map? Like, do you want to hatch any of these or either of these?
Well, I think it'll show up fine as it is on the location inset. I mean, that's all.
Okay, that'll be fine. So let's save this. And then you might as well just leave it open in case we have to come back and tweak anything.
Okay.
And one thing I want to do before
Let me go ahead and close Wilcoxon.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now so you can have image files can have certain things to be transparent. So you see down here where it says transparency in the properties.
Yeah.
If I said yes, it would be transparent, but you have to set the, which color is used for the transparency. We haven't really shown any of that. So, and it's not really well suited. What's that's best used for is if you have like a PDF that is a black line work on a white page, and sometimes a white page is sort of a gray. So you can make that color transparent. So all you get is the line work and it makes everything else fade. But this has got, hill shading and all that. So, so we've got some things that we can do. We can also, quite sort of tone down what they call the fade level. As bright as it is, it becomes, looks like this. And that may be all right, but we've got white roads on that really bright background. So we might want to a little bit. We'll see how it looks in the PDF. All right. So let's save that. Now go ahead and reopen your bell drawing, and let's get this now positioned in where we go. Okay, so in our merger map, now this is what's going to happen is in this location map, if you select this thing, we have two things drawn here. We have one is a polyline, and that's the actual drawn frame that you see on the piece of paper.
Right.
But underneath it, exactly underneath it, is this viewport, and that viewport is pointing to something in your model space.
Right.
So what we need to do is we're going to go out here to the model space and we're just going to go off here to the side somewhere. Now this we don't need anymore. Is that correct?
Right.
All right, we're going to get rid of that. Now another, what I want to do is let's clean out that layer list a bit. So instead of doing a full scale purge like we did before, because we might want to keep line styles and blocks and things that are defined, but maybe not used, a full on purge would get rid of all of those. So let's just go to the file menu and drawing cleanup. So right there. One more up, right there. Okay. And if there's anything checked, there is one thing, just hit the clear button at the bottom so that everything is cleared off. And now we want to look for the one that says remove unused layers, or remove layers with no entities. It's the fourth one down. All right. And just click OK. And so that will, excuse me, go through all of the, so got rid of 350 layers. All right. Now, if you go and look at your layer list, you're going to see it's nice and neat. All of those 18ST blah, blah, blahs are gone, but everything else that we need is still there.
Okay.
And we got rid of an empty one that we had some definitions on. If you want to back, just go to another drawing and open this up and drag and drop. You know that routine. Okay.
Right.
All right. So close that off and, or yeah, well, okay. So we're going to now insert that drawing. And we can do it, yeah, two ways. You can either attach it like that, or you can even insert it just like we did that merger arrow. Because it's just a drawing, it's just, and it would behave like a block. So either way is fine. So if we say draw, and I would do the old XREF normally when I needed to keep track of where these things are by coordinate. But all I want to do is get this in and off to the side somewhere so I can reference it in my location map. So I'm going to treat it like a block. So I'm going to, so go ahead and insert. And since it's not a defined block, yep, do that. Browse and find that location map, which is in your Bell folder. There we go. And now when that comes in, we want the insertion point to be us to specify on screen because we're going to pull it off to the side. But the scale, uncheck that specify and change the X value to 1 instead of 0.1. Just highlight the numbers and you don't have to step it up. Yeah, you can just type it. There you go. And the rotation, uncheck that because we want it to come in matched rotation. There you go. Now we'll say insert and just go off to the side somewhere and click a spot. Now that's done, but when you clicked that spot, that was its 0.00. So if you look out here, it's going to be like way out there. Okay. So if we take this and it's all one thing, so I just grab the one, I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it from say there to somewhere down here that makes, I can give me, whoops, let's try that again, a little too close still. So let's move and let's, there we go. I think that's a little better. So now you see it's the same scale, which we're going to be at a much different scale when we go back over to here. But we're going to be able to now point this frame over to it, fill it up, and then see what scale it is and go to the nearest nominal scale. Okay. So while you're there, I'll select the viewport. Go to the properties and unlock it. Okay, now double click inside it. And what I usually do is, instead of trying to fish my way around it, I'll just do a zoom extents while I'm in that frame. And you'll see what I mean. Now you see where everything is. You know, where's their block?
I don't see it.
Well, it might be because the layer might be turned off inside that viewport. So while you're in that viewport, run your layers dialog.
Where is that?
Just like if you were to make a new layer. Right there, the layer manager, that's what I'm trying to think of. Now just right click the list of layers. No, to right in there, right click and choose select all. Now, over in the column where it says current, it's like 2 from the right. You see where, yes, you see where the ones, like 2 down, you see ones that are frozen. Just click one of those, and that puts it all to thawed. So whatever you do is going to affect all the ones you've got selected. So just click that. Now close that off. And that means that within that viewport, everything is now thawed. Now you can zoom in and just keep that sort of in the center and keep zooming until you get to where you've got at least that little, you got everything filled up. And I don't know if you need to pull it. It's probably a little too close, maybe. If you see, I don't, you'll have to decide, how high do we need to go up here to find whatever road we need.
Well, I think the roads down here on the east side of the river are more relevant.
Okay. All right.
I mean, west side of the river, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So anyway, that's what you want to do is, and you see where we go off this edge and we get it, the white shows up over here. I would try to, let's make sure we get in close enough to where we've got everything within our little black frame covered. And so now at whatever scale that is, center that up to where you get about where you think it should be. And then now while you're out, go ahead and select it. And it is at some custom scale. We don't know what yet. Don't worry about that yet. Let me take a look at it first. Let's go ahead and what I want to do is I want to change the number of decimal places that you have showing so I can read that scale value and figure out what it is, because it's something less than 0.000 something. So escape all that. You don't want to. Yeah, there we go. Now remember that's still locked, so let's be careful not to zoom inside it at the moment. And let's go to the command line and type units. Hit enter. And now you see that display precision, run that up to like 6 maybe. All right, say okay. Now go back and select the viewport and let's look at what scale it is. And it is 0.00025. That might be really convenient. It might be if it were metric. So whatever that is that 1 inch equals 2,500 feet, or is it got some factor 12 in it? I'm not sure. It is 0.00025, 0.00025, 1 over X. So that's 4,000. So that's 1 inch equals 4,000 inches. So 4,000 divided by 12. So that's 333 feet. So if we wanted it to be 300, so let's see, a good nominal size then would be, if we come here Now notice this standard scale and annotation scale.
Yeah,
I'm going to just change the annotation scale. Oh, I don't have it. I thought if you have it already defined in the annotation scale, when you change the annotation scale, it changes them both. But sometimes when you just do a standard scale, it doesn't. You'd have to change that other one separately. All right, so this, and I don't have a 1 inch equals 300 in my list. I could make one in the list, or
that can't be 300 scale.
well, let me
Think
see.
about how long those lines are.
Well, yeah,
Property lines.
that's what I was wondering myself. So I may have dropped a decimal, or I may have done my math wrong. So what is this?
Well, let's do a quick inverse. So that line is 770 feet long, roughly.
All right, so let's go back up to here, 770. Now we got to be careful. Just to and if I select, oops, I want to lock that for the moment because it's at such a nice nominal scale. And say yes. Now we can zoom in and out of it. So if we were to look at that distance now, it would be that same 700 and something. Yeah, 769.4. If I were to draw that, and then so this is now, what is its length? 0.19224 inches is 769 feet. So and one exact, so point, all right, so 769, let's call it 0.192. Right, so that's 4,000. Yeah, so that is, so I didn't have to do the factor of 12. That's where I messed it up. All right, so this is actually at 1 inch equals 4,000 feet.
Yeah, they wanted it 1 inch to 2,000.
All right, so we'll go ahead and change this so we don't forget it. And then we'll change this viewport and see if it gives us enough reference. So 0.00025 is 1 to 4,000. So I'm going to unlock this. And to make it 2,000, instead of that being 0.25, I just change that to 0.0005. All right, so that 1 inch equals 2,000 feet. Now, does that give us enough reference?
Well, it gives us two roads. You can look at the two roads and probably figure out.
All right, we've got the main one coming down, and then we see this road, we see this main one, and we see this subdivision over on the other side. I think that's probably sufficient.
Yeah.
All right. So I then go back to select the viewport and lock it. And now you can move your word site up.
Do we want to change the annotation scale?
No, we're not annotating anything in it. That's just if we have things drawn tight,
Okay.
text or line styles. in the model space of what it's looking at, but it's only these several lines in that image.
Okay,
So I would, you know, everything that we're going to annotate out here, we've already got here at paper space, at paper scaling. We do need a little north arrow, perhaps. You know, you can put the little sight under it. You can decide whether you want to shape, you know, hatch any of that. That might be just sufficient. I think that would be fine.
yeah,
It's very clear. But then move these guys up where they go, like maybe this goes up, you know, you might want to just stick it there or stick it over here. You know, that's all for you. And of course, the best plan is to, you know, keep that consistent with what you've done other times. But then what I'd like to do now real quick is, while we still have this, remember we faded this image out. If we were to go ahead and plot this, and we are in, is this a 23 jump?
yeah, it's done.
And I don't know if you put your plots anywhere particular.
Yeah, just put it there where those others are.
Yeah, and I'm just going to call this test plot. And the reason I want to do that is because I just want to make sure that the mapping part of it. Now, this is the actual PDF. And if we zoom in up here at the location map, I just want to make sure it's, yeah, see, that's all readable. And it looks, you know, it's been lightened a little bit, but it's not so much that you can't tell that there's something there. I just didn't want it to be, you know, when it's full on brightness, this tan background competes with the roads and you can't really see them very well.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to see. Now we can also do that with, if we go back. Here. Well, let's take a comparison. We're going to set that now, instead of being 35% fade, let's leave it at full on brightness. We'll save that. We'll come back to here. We will go to treat that as a block. So I'm going to redefine this, I think. We'll do this from file. Specify, not insert. Yes, I'll redefine it, and I will put it at the insertion point of this one. Now it's brightened up. Now let's take a peek at this one just in comparison. And we'll call this one two. I don't know that I see a whole lot of difference, Mike. Actually, I think there might be a little bit more definition. So there's test plot 2. Yeah, I think I like that one a little better. What do you think? It's
Yeah,
not much.
yeah.
It's subtle. But see, it's not so washed out looking.
Right.
All right, that's easy to or that's a fortunate situation, but that's not something that ever shows up in AutoCAD until we plot it. But why I say it's fortunate is that now we don't have to remember to try to select this and change the fade. We just took it as it is out of the box by default, and everything works fine. So now back to this, and you can, like I said, your topo map, you would do that same thing with this frame here. And what did we say? 2000. And here's what I would do to match is I would come over here and I would select this viewport. And I would look at a couple of things. I would note down that. Well, no, that's going to be the same. Height and width. I wonder if we select, and I think we'll be able to, if we select the viewport, because I don't want to have to go back and try to reposition it the same place. I want it to be exactly the same. So if I select that viewport as a thing on this layout space called merger plat, and if I right click clipboard, copy with base point, and I'm going to copy from that upper left corner. Okay. I've now copied a viewport. And if I come here and select that viewport, and I'm going to delete it so I don't have a conflict, and I'm going to go to clipboard now, and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to get that same, there we go, perfect. And if we want these two words to match the same location, I'll go the same process. I'll copy with the base point. I'll grab that up there as my reference. I'll now go to my merger plat. I no longer need these because I'm going to paste right there. Okay, now you match there and there.
Okay.
Looks almost like one is heavier than the other. And that is on layer. Oops, on that particular layer. All right. That may just oops, I meant to do that. And let's see here, endpoint of that to. All right, now if I toggle, let me do a region all. If I toggle back and forth, you see how the lines look thinner on this one than they do on that one?
Yeah.
And
I
I
don't know
don't,
if it'll really matter though. You know,
yeah, yeah, I don't know that they really are. I think that that's just possibly an illusion you can see. And if it becomes problematic in your PDFs, then you can tone one down. I also want to sort of move that. Let's put it down here, sort of opposite the title of it. I wanted to get it off of those street names in there, so. There we go. All right. Locked. Yes. Now, since we pasted that, I'm going to bring polyline up to the front. Not that it matters because the other one is behind it to begin with. All right, so we'll save your drawing. Okay, I think that will conclude what you need on this one. You could tuck it away. And we now have your location inset set.
Yep. Okay, now I have two flood things. I have a floodplain line and a floodway line.
Right.
And so I probably need to clip these at the property line or trim them.
Not necessarily, because really the floodplain physically extends beyond the property.
Yeah.
Now, you know, so.
But I'm going to want to hatch it or something on my property, aren't I?
Yeah, or maybe even for the entire place that you show it. Now, if this is all that you need to show out of the model, you can certainly do this. See what it's having the effect of?
Yeah.
So however you don't, that doesn't have to stay any particular size. In fact, it can come in to really only be as big as you need it to be. And that might be something, worth showing at that level. And the only reason you want this to be bigger out here is if you've got something in the model space that you want to show up here. But if that's the extent of it, then that's fine. And you can also remember, see, this can be repositioned anywhere on the screen that you might, if you need to have, less white space up there at the top. And you want more room down here for titles and notes or whatever, then, you would put that wherever you need it to be. Okay.
Okay.
So now you see what happened? See this Shenandoah River?
Yeah.
It was not in model space. And that's why I said these things that are dependent on the position in the model, you would need to probably put them in model space. Now, so what I'm going to do is this. Undo that back to there. And you can decide if you want to change space this, or if you do want to go around to, if you do want to wind up moving this, just make sure when you move it, you're going to select this and anything that's drawn in paper space. And that would be, all of these things that are in paper space, they need to go with it too. So now when you move it, see how everything's going?
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. I'll leave it right back there where you had it. But now let's go back to hatching. So the flood, excuse me, the flood way, which is, well, it's not, this should be you have to change the words there to make that the floodway.
What does it say?
You've got them both saying,
Oh,
yeah, okay.
okay. Yeah, that's a
And it
floodplain.
says 100 YT, I think you mean YR.
Yeah.
And then, whatever designation you want with that one, I'll let you go ahead and type that. That's your, I don't know if it has a, is it 100 years, is it 500 years, is it?
Says on the
Yeah,
floodplain map that it's 500 year.
is the floodway, and is that one word or two, and is it a zone designation or not? And is it,
I don't think it is a zone designation, actually. Let's
okay,
look at the map. I've got it up here.
yep. Yeah, and make sure whether or not floodway is one word or two. But there we go. So that's a high risk advisory flood zone. And that's the
It is an AE floodway.
yeah, it's zone AE floodway. Now it doesn't say 100-year or otherwise.
That's true.
Because it's just a floodway, and there's a definition for that. Now you see over there, outside of that, it's still zone AE. And then you've got that little yellow, the orange, which is that special risk, whatever it was called, if you zoom in.
I don't have to identify that on my
Okay,
plat.
all right.
County doesn't care about it.
But if you look on the FEMA, I look over here in the legend, it says flood hazard area location is within the 100-year floodplain. It's zone AE, so that is 100-year. So I would leave the 100-year on it, and one I would designate as floodway, and the other as the floodplain. I think that would be all we need to do. So floodway, I would make it into one word. Decline my spam call. And then to the end of that, I would click to the right and put space, parentheses, zone AE, close parentheses. All right. And then if you look at the other one, it says the 100-year flood plain, which is two words.
Make this parenthetic too.
Yeah, I would, just for consistency's sake. Okay, now what we need to do next is to hit enter one more time so you can finish your text edits. Now, let's go back to this model tab, and let's set up our hatching. And if you recall from the other, the from this, it had these, the floodway was hatched with the sort of diagonal line looking stuff, and this other was hatched separately. So I would follow that same convention. It's just, there's nothing that says you have to, but I would do that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw a box that we know is bigger than what we're looking at. So let's go and let's get off this layer adjoiner, and let's find
floodplain layer, I think.
There's FEMA, effective floodplain. All right, so let's draw us a little bounding box here. Just I know that'll probably be all that we need. And we're going to isolate those layers. And that's, we're going to hatch this and hatch this. And then when we come back to the mapping, you'll see how it underlies all of the other stuff for us. Okay.
Okay.
So we let's go ahead and do the hatch. I'll let you do this. And there's your diagonal. That looks good. I would change that scale right now. I'd go ahead and make it 100. I know it's going to need to be at least 100.
Where's the scale?
It's there, right below, right where you, right there. Just type 100 in there. We can always change it at any point. Now, the color See that color 254, pull that down and let's choose select color. And let's make it a little bit darker than that. So I think that one, right? No, go back one more to the right, right there. There we go. All right, and say pick up at the top there. Let's see, yeah. Hang on a second, Michael. See the below that, the next box below, the whole frame below, where it says draw order.
Yeah.
Right, pull that down and say send to back. Yeah, there you go. Now we want to pick an internal point. So go up there and at the top where it says pick internal points. Okay. Click and now pick the flood way. So pick in there once, and that shows you what it is. So we're going to say enter to accept that. And we'll say okay. Now I can tell that's still not going to be scaled up the way we need it, but that's all right for now. So let's go next to repeat the command and change the pattern from NC31 to all the way to the top where it says solid. And let's make that color, select color, and let's make that one, the next one to the right, just a little bit right there. Yeah, and say, okay, now we might find that we need to make that a little lighter later when we come back, but this will be for now. And let's say add pick internal point and click in there. Perfect. Okay. And now hit enter and hit OK to finish. Now we have isolated layers, so let's go back to restore the layers, which is that next little guy to it. Nope, 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 go to the left, to the left, to the left, right there. Okay, now let's go back to our plats and see what they look like. Oh, actually it's not terrible.
Didn't show up on the topo at all.
Because we have that layer in that title or in that viewport, that layer is frozen. So if you click inside that viewport, go to your layer, there you go. Find that flood, it's right there where it's checked, select it. Go over to the, oh, it shows it on.
Well, I don't think that property is in the floodplain. If you look at the
You're right, you're right, you're right. It's outside of where we are. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Go back to the, here's one thing I did notice when you were loading these around. If you look, see this dash line boundary on the legend, which is on legend. It looked like over here that it's missing. Now it's not missing as much as it's not showing up. That's because of why. Am I in? Dashed 2, line type scale 1. -2. See, there's something amiss. Let's see. LT scale is 1. MS LT scale is on. PS LT scale is on. You can see 1-to-1. No scaling. Print entity line weights styles gray. 1:1, 15:24. No scaling. They're identical. Is this? There is no. Must have polygon. There's no. All right, see this setback limit 1-2. That is correct. Ah, it wasn't that it was scaled wrong, it was just behind the hatching. Okay. So sorry about that. Yeah, that's all we need on there. On here, we've got that shown correctly. You might want to take this. Instead of 100, let's see what 150 looks like. I'll spread it out a little bit. Let's try maybe even. Now, all I'm doing there is I'm double clicking it.
Mhm.
You can also select it and change over here. Let's see what I see. So that's, I'd say 200 is probably pretty optimum, maybe. So there's the flood way. You might do this. So that it's actually inside the plane that's inside the floodway. Now, do you need, is there any reason to designate the actual edge of water?
No,
I don't like to do that if you don't need to, because
I don't need to.
yeah, because that sort of implies that you've determined it.
Right.
No, yeah. All right, and now when you go to plot those, if anything looks too garish and too gray, I would bring this. This guy I would bring to the front. See, anytime you modify anything there, it makes it a last edited, and so it puts it on top of the other, but that way this will be up on top.
Right.
The last one. So now is this one more of that? You you can play around with it and see. You don't want it to be the main feature of your work, and if it's too close together, just up the scale.
Okay.
I
I think
think,
it looks fine the way it is.
yeah, okay. All right, I think
I think that gives me plenty to work on for a while.
you got you a nice looking plat there, so but as long as you grasp those concepts and you see how easy it is to forget things like when I went to move the viewport around, well, I forgot all about the lettering you'd already put out there for the adjoiners and the owners and the Shenandoah River. And so that's one argument about keeping things like that in model space, because they go along for the ride.
Right.
But the argument about putting them on the paper is that you basically go through and you annotate things, you label things after you've decided where everything's going on the map, and that leaves you room over in model space to do your analysis and your analytics. You're not fighting with labels and such, right?
Right. Right.
Anyway, and like I said, there's never any right answer. And there's just more than one way, and they're both correct. So
let me ask you another question. And I've been thinking about doing this, but I haven't yet. Oh, my location is that.
yeah, I just did a regen all and REA because you'll have to do that from time to time.
Okay. If I wanted to create a cover sheet for my plats, would I do it the same way we did the topo map?
Yes, you would just cover that because that copies this as the overall total sheet boundary and all that kind of stuff. You'll right click this and copy. And then you'll just, and let's say if we do that, so if I copy this and I want to call it cover sheet, right? Now notice it goes down here on the third. Well, these are just, if I click, obviously a change to them, but you can click and hold and then drag it up here and put it, well, in AutoCAD, you can just click and drag it. If you right click and choose move left, one or up to the first, see, so you can, I'm really surprised. I guess you have to do that by menu command. So now you can move right. If you select this one, you can right click and choose move right, move left. Right, so.
Okay, so if I'm going to the cover sheet, I can delete all my line work and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Won't
yeah.
affect anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd keep the sheet edges, but
yes,
this other stuff here, yeah, you can get rid of.
And I could bring in my well, okay, everything's there. The location insets there. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about putting all of my notes and stuff like that on the cover sheet.
Yeah, and sometimes you have like a cover sheet, or you'll have and
all
some,
those signature blocks and
yep,
stuff.
you have approval blocks, you've got general
Not
notes.
doing any of this stuff.
Correct. And you would just, select that viewport and just, I'm on cover sheet. Yeah. So if I delete that, all of that goes, and this would go, just clean out what you don't need. You wouldn't need this, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
I might do that then.
yeah, one thing I did want to do too is just as an indicator, I want to copy this and we'll put it over there at the inset and a different size. I'm just going to put it up in here, and I'm going to scale it. Okay. I guess I gotta get it to stick. Get off that, it was snapping. So there we go. And then I will it's awfully heavy.
I copied that to the other two sheets.
Yeah. I didn't really want it to be quite so blasted, but that's a block that's flagging. So if I go into my block editor and now, oh no, I don't want to do that either. Because if I do it here, it would affect the other one. So, wow.
I think you closed the,
Yeah, that's what it looks like I did.
I hope it's
Well, I
normally
did.
asks you to save. You want to save.
Well, it did, but I thought it was asking me if I wanted to save the block edit session, and I guess I was too hasty. Anyway, I think I saved it after I did the last everything except the north arrow move. Or the north arrow copy rather. Okay, now let's see. The last one that I was really sort of working on.
And it took away the cover too.
Took away the cover sheet, but we know how to get that. Let's make sure. All right, so that is there. So if we just rate cover sheets. And like a lot of times I'll have these, I'll have things like this. I'll have a cover sheet and I'll have all the titles and it usually has a location map or vicinity map. And then I'll have another sheet that's just general notes because there's so many that you got to have.
Yeah, I don't have to have as many as you have. I'm
Yeah.
not an engineer, and I'm not in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you got to declaim everything. All right. So now if I move or copy rather, this, I'm going to put it over here and I'm going to scale it. And then I'm going to just explode it so that I can control its line weights. Type will just be line weight will be. There we go. Now it's all broken into individual pieces. So if I remove it, I'll just move it like so.
Then I can copy that to the other location insets.
Yep. In fact, I'm going to make a block out of this. And I'm going to call it North Arrow Mini. uh, Base point. Base points. Let's see. So if I pick a base point, I'll make it that. And then if I select, I'm going to select these and say, okay. Now it is back to being a single little thing. You can copy and use your clipboard to copy and paste that between the sheets. Okay.
Okay.
And if you're going to put, a different bunch of general notes, again, it's always nice. You got something started, you can copy, make a, so that you've got the same style of text, the same height, all of those different things. You follow all that.
Right.
I don't know why this thing keeps jumping to the front. Let's make sure we haven't. Back. Okay. So there you go. There's that. And so, and just so you understood what I did here, that original block of this arrow was much larger. And if I wanted it here, but you see how these are sort of fine line, that's what I was trying to do here. But if I just select the overall block and give it a line weight, it doesn't really affect it. It does, but only the things that are built on layer 0. It's overly complex.
Let me do the copy here, and
Yep.
I want to ask you a question about it while I'm doing it.
Sure.
So I go to clipboard and I say copy with base point
Uh-huh.
and pick this as my base point,
Yep. Just something that you can find on the other sheets as a reference.
and then go to merger plat.
Mhm.
And say clipboard.
Now, there's two things you can do here. You can just say paste and you can clip that or find that same endpoint, or you can say paste to original coordinates. And you don't have to pick it and it'll
Now,
get.
here's my question. Can I go here and do the same thing without doing another cut?
Yes, you may. Just right click, clipboard, and at this point you can, because the target endpoint is exactly the same in the same location coordinate wise as the other ones, you can just say paste. Well, wait, escape, 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 escape. Now right click and choose clipboard, and because it's going to the same place, you can just say paste to original coordinates. There you go. See, but if you just say paste, it's going to ask you for a place, and that way you could put it in a different location. But since the location was the same in every instance, when you paste to those original coordinates, that's all you needed to have done.
Now, let me ask you a question here. This is, you've provided a lot more stuff to architects and other people than I have.
Okay.
On this drawing, well, if I normally I put my dimensions, my bearings and distances
Yes.
on my
In the merger plat
on my model
model space. Yeah.
model space.
Right.
But on the topo map, I don't know that he really needs those, does he?
Not necessarily. And so what I would do there, Mike, is in your model, back in your model space, I would put your dimensions on there, but make sure they go to a layer that you can control that's separate from the line work layer. Because you
Okay.
always want to be seeing the line work. Okay. And even if that means you make a new layer,
Called plat dimensions or something like that.
yeah, or meets and bounds, or whatever you want to call it. And so then when you go back to the two different layouts, the merger plat and the topo map, if you double click inside that viewport, you can then freeze that layer and it will leave the line showing, but it would freeze the dimensions inside that viewport. But if you're inside merger plat, you're going to leave that layer showing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But you can, let's say if you did want them to be on both, certainly you could do that. And one things that I want you to sort of get to start to get used to is that when you do that, and if you make that text that you are writing that meets and bounds piece of text with when it generates it, if you and that's back here in model space. So if you do that with, and let's just do it, say with this line right here. Let's go back to survey. And let's just annotate bearing and distance on the outside. So there's bearing and distance. So if I pick this, all right, so it's going to be based on a couple of things. It's based on these annotate defaults, which say that in general, it's going to use an end text, and it's going to be this size text, scalar, plotted inches, okay, offset scalar by that many plotted inches off of the line. And it says the angle or the bearing is going to be on this layer. Okay, so anode boundary. It's going to use this style text, standard style text. And down here was the bearing direction method was toward the picked end. Remember when I picked it down here in that direction. Yeah. That's right. Why it's the southeast. You can change that behavior. You can, if you follow the line work, it's whatever direction the line was done in, or you could say away from the picked end, just keep in mind what it is. All right. So that sets that behavior. And then the distance would be, layers, sizes, fonts, etc. And then when you do that command, which was this bearing distance, so you can change the size and points between points and all that kind of stuff. But when you do it that way, it's going to choose that. Now, if I want to look at the defaults for a minute. When I said the angle, 6 degrees, similar toward the picked, normal.
Now, can I turn off the anode boundary layer on a particular page and it doesn't affect the others?
Yeah, that's what I was telling you about when we get into the you double click inside the frame and then you freeze it inside that viewport. So it's viewport aware.
So let me show you on a topo map here. You've put a
yeah, so now there it is there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now go back to your merger plat and you'll see it also there.
Yeah.
Okay. And now when you go to topo map, if you want to turn it off there, double click
in this frame.
Yep. And now you can freeze by pick. Right there. Yep. And that's only going to happen. It's only going to affect it within this viewport, I think. So we hit enter. If not, there's another way of doing it. And then go back to the merger plat and it should still be showing. There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what I was getting to though was when we set this up over here, we set a particular size of text, and that's based on the scale. And right now I'm sitting at a 20 scale drawing. So if I made that 100 scale, I'd have to redo that, or I would see, go to my drawing setup and change that to be, there's that daggone thing again.
And that's what I should do, right? It should be at the scale of the main drawing of the merger plat.
Yeah, and then so you've got, things like this that you would well, I mean, it doesn't really matter which one that you do, but if you, here's what I was getting to, is that if you trying to see over here on the side. Yes, okay. So if you have, I mean, if you do it at whatever scale that you're going to want to use it, so that would be the 100 scale, and you would, put it accordingly. And if you, repositioned these things, let me turn off this snapping for a minute. Let's say, and off and. All right, so remember the other day we were talking about this annotation business.
Yeah.
Let me go back to putting this back to 20. All right, so there it is at when it's at 20 scale. You saw what we did at 100 scale. So now over here, this is at 100 scale, annotation scale. I don't know why it didn't stick when I moved that. Let's see here. Snap that off. Let's just put it on edges. Outside, rather. All right, so if we do that at 100 scale, our 20 scale, which we have frozen. I also see there's something else down here. What is that? Is that?
Must be part of the floodplain. Maybe.
It's part of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, can you freeze that on that layer? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. But remember, when you freeze that, it's freezing the whole layer that it's on. So if it's on a layer that you want to keep stuff on. Now, this other stuff, those things went away. I'm still in a little bit perplexed here. What I'm trying to say is that when you annotate this stuff and it's done with a text style that is annotative, then they will respond to any of those changes in scale and movement and all of that.
Right.
But it didn't seem to necessarily work. Let's see. See, that has an annotation scale of 1 inch equals to 20. So it's there. They're both here. I've got on that. All right, so I'm in 20 scale. If I change my settings to 100, now that shows where that got moved to. I don't understand why that's. I should have remembered that from that moving bit. So it is annotative. So no to begin with, and then we'll set it back to yes. And the annotative scale should be at this point 100. Yeah. Add. So they're both there, maybe. All right, so now that's at 100 scale. That's at 20 scale, but where the heck is it?
Where is what?
That annotation.
We froze it.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably correct. That was called text
Something anno.
anno boundary. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, so that, and so now in this at 20 scale, then I would, I could reposition it, in various different locations. So you can do those several ways. Now we're going to go back to freezing that here so that it won't show up here, but we could have it and we could position it in two different places, because when we're at these various scales, now I'm back here at this 100 scale. And so now when you run that command to, first of all, set the defaults, we're setting the text to be this size in printed inches and this offset. And then when you run that command that I ran was, I said angle distance, and I said this one, which is, I see the picture, it's bearing over distance, so it's bearing the line the distance. So it would probably, that would have been a better one maybe if I wanted to keep it on. You know how to work all that.
Right.
But also on, when we defined that text, we told it to use style standard. Okay. So when we look at our text definitions, our text style standard, I see in my, it's not defined as a style that is annotative. It typically would be. I see none of them are defined that way, but it's this setting right here, the Carlson configure general settings. It says use annotative scale. So that's we're telling Carlson we want to use things to be annotative when we can, so that they react to changes in their drawing scale.
Right.
All right. So, but otherwise, let's see if that style or that particular text, in fact, if I, let's just take this text, for instance, I look over here and it's properties and I see annotative, it says, no, it's not annotative. So if I were to put that in a different scale, it wouldn't change. It's going to always be that particular height unless I make it annotated. But when I run this command on the annotation stuff using mtext, I don't see that there's a switch in here to turn the annotative behavior on and off. That's governed either by the text style. So if standard were annotative, it would do it that way. Or even if it's not in that setting, Carlson configure general settings where we say use annotated scale, then that takes care of it too. Okay. So I know that's probably confusing, but I want you to try to sort of keep that annotative scaling business in mind. And it applies to, all of this stuff. Like we've got these, the blocks, the text labels. See, this text hasn't changed. This text has gotten big all of a sudden because we're down here at the 100 scale.
Right.
So we wanted to, let's put that back to our 20 scale and making sure that we set that line type scale to 1. Then that would be, the size that we would see this stuff over here. But if we're working on this working on this to put your dimensions on, your meets and bounds, you might at that point set it back to 100 scale so that you would see what it would look like when you're over here. Okay. Follow?
Right.
Follow. Yeah. Okay. So let's save that before I accidentally close your drawing. And that's that. I think it gives you stuff to kerplunk around with.
Okay, I've got plenty to do. How about if I text you sometime on Sunday and we'll set something up for next week?
That would be good. I am going to be, just text me. I'm going to be, we're having dinner with a friend Sunday. I don't remember if it's dinner or lunch or where we grew up, lunch or supper. I don't know which one it is, but it's sometime after church. And it won't matter. Just text me at that point. And we're out of town starting tomorrow afternoon. We're heading over to Toledo for my daughter's nursing graduation surprise party.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then so we'll be in and out. But yeah, just let me know what kind of progress you got made and when might work for you. And at that point, if nothing has filled in any calendar slots, we'll take it wherever we need. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, sir. Let me do
And
a
we have recorded all this, right?
yes, sir. So I'll stop the
You-
remote control and I will stop the recording.